What's up? I'm just going to send out a quick message so people know the stream is live, and then we'll get started. Yep, we're going to talk about it. I know some of you guys probably already have your own opinions, so we'll even argue about it a little bit. All right. Yeah, when B58, right? That's probably one of the bigger questions. It's one of those things. It's like, I think we got used to being first for a long time. And then when the S58 came out, all of a sudden, we're like, wait a minute, are we the new N55, N54? Like, what do you mean we're not first? Oh. We'll let a couple more people hop in and then we'll talk about it. Let's see, is it worth buying an M2 or a 340? I guess it depends on what you're looking for. I personally wouldn't buy like an N55 M2. .470-ish horsepower daily. Yeah, that's pretty easy nowadays. That's not too hard to achieve. Especially if you got ethanol. Yeah, B58, that's easy peasy. All right, so I know we got some questions too, but I want to talk Rev 2, and then we'll come back to some of the questions. Because a lot of people have been asking me about that. I guess, first of all, thank you guys for joining. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. I do have a new merch site. I want to plug that in because I know a lot of you guys tried shopping with Teespring, had all kinds of issues. They were taking forever to ship and stuff like that. I didn't know because I don't manage the shipping. And when you guys told me and I found out, I switched over. So there's a new site with all the merch, the stickers, and everything now. The link is in the description if you guys want to check that out later on. Feel free. But yeah, Bootmod3 Rev 2. So as you guys know, both of my cars are running Motiv Reflex, and a lot of people ask me, how does it compare to Reflex? Is it better than Reflex? Would I switch to Rev 2? Like a bunch of stuff. So MHD resorted to AI ads. Oh, you gotta link me. I gotta see that. Hold on. That actually sounds really funny. Anyway, so yeah, both of my cars are MHD. Both of my cars are running Reflex, and a lot of people are wondering if Rev 2 is. So for me personally, I don't think it's worth it if you already have Reflex up and running, first of all. So I'm not going to be switching to Rev 2. The other thing is Rev 2 only works with boot mode. And I think that's something that a lot of people didn't understand. Rev 2 is not like Motiv Reflex. It actually is very different. And I can appreciate that. They did something really creative. But when they released it, everybody was looking for it to be like a standalone controller. And it's not. It's basically like an extension of the DME. It's adding extra inputs and outputs for the DME. So that's very different from what Reflex does. Reflex is like on its way to being a standalone controller. It's a couple steps away from being like a full engine management system, but that's what it's trying to do. I don't think Reflex or Rev 2 has any of that capability because you don't flash Rev 2. You don't do anything with it. You just kind of wire it up and then flash the DME just like normal. So to me, I guess that comparison, it doesn't work just because we know that the two are different. Reflex crashes. Everything crashes, man. Our cars throw drivetrain malfunctions for cruising down the road funny. Everything crashes. It's not that nobody talks about it. I would say, if anything, a lot of people are pushed away from Reflex because they think it's more complicated than it is. And it's really not. It's no more complicated than any other standalone system. And so, it kind of just is picking your poison. When you don't have something built into the car to drive port injection and auxiliary fuel pumps and meth and nitrous, you have to add something to your car. So the question is, do you want a standalone controller, or do you just want like a wiring harness extension, basically like an additional wiring harness? Because that's kind of what I put Rev 2 in. It's its own bucket of just adding extra inputs and outputs to the DME. So it really just depends on what you're doing. If you have boot mode and you don't have Motiv Reflex yet, then yes, I would say probably Rev 2 is worth it. But if you already have a Reflex working, I don't see a point in switching. If you have MHD, then it won't work anyway, unless MHD finds a way or a custom tuner finds a way to build in the logic for it. But I don't see that happening. When would you need it? So it's exactly what I'm saying. The only time you would need a Reflex or a Rev 2 is if you're trying to control something that your car doesn't already have the functionality to control. So if you upgrade like a high pressure fuel pump or your direct injection system or anything like that, then you don't need any extra controllers because you're replacing something that's already there. But if you're adding a low pressure fuel pump or port injection or a flex fuel sensor or an external boost controller, like anything that is separate from how the stock system works, then you need either Motiv or a Rev 2. And let me even add on to that. You don't need a Motiv or a Rev 2, but those are the better ways to control it, because everybody can use a manual boost controller and a pressure switch to activate a fuel pump and stuff like that. But, a Reflex or a Rev 2 or something along those lines is going to give you more control, more safeties, and it's going to like build it into how the car runs. So it's just better all around. And do I think it's possible for companies to pull controllers from the Gen 3? I don't think so. And we were talking about that as well because, so Gen 3, for everybody to be on the same page, Gen 3 has factory port injection control. So if you want to run port injection, then you don't need to do anything on a Gen 3. In theory, you could just upgrade the injectors and have all the fuel that you need. The problem is the new Gen 3 B58 has a brand new DME. So that's why you don't see anybody tuning them. The only people posting numbers on them are Burger Motorsports with JB4, because it has a new DME that isn't unlocked. It can't be unlocked. The FEM2 unlock doesn't work. Nobody's unlock solution works. It can't be flashed. So there's nothing that we can do to pull capability from a Gen 3 and put it into like a Gen 1 or a Gen 2. In theory, I would say like you'd need to clone the DME, probably swap engine harnesses, and do a lot of the same work that would come with getting a Reflex or a Rev 2. So it doesn't really make sense currently. If it was more plug and play, maybe. But, it's kind of the same thing with people asking, can we put a Gen 3 intake manifold on our cars? Even if it fits, you don't have a way to control the port injection. So you're still going to be doing all the extra work adding an auxiliary fuel controller. So it's just something that it's nice that the Gen 3 has it, but I don't see Gen 1 or Gen 2 benefiting from it anytime soon. Not without like literally swapping the whole thing, which then it loses completely. Let's see, what cars do I currently have? So as far as like BMW B58 stuff, so I have the X7 that has a Gen 2 two-port B58, and then I have a 340i and a 440i, and those are Gen 1 B58s. Can Reflex control line lock? No, I don't think so. So that's the other thing, because Rev 2 has a lot of extra inputs and outputs compared to Reflex. And I think it's because it's simplified, so they can add more capability to it. They spent more time on it, so they kind of got to do a lot more with it. The new Reflex Pro is supposed to have more capability as well, but I don't think it's going to have more than Rev 2. So Rev 2 having the EGT sensors that nobody's going to use, but it's cool that they have it. And then the ride height sensors for wheelie control, that's pretty dope. Having the boost control through the exhaust flap is probably my absolute favorite thing that they did. Being able to build that in, I think that's something that somebody should just build into tuning software. Like that should just be built into MHD's custom code too. But regardless, boost control through the exhaust flap, and then line lock, and what was the other one? They had a trans brake feature and stuff. So they can control a lot more stuff because it has a lot more auxiliary inputs and outputs that you can do anything with if you have a tuner that's capable of it. So yeah, I mean, I think Rev 2 would be the right way to go if we started with that. But now at this point, it's so late. It's less of, oh, that's so cool, everybody should do it, and more of, like I said, if you have boot mode and you don't already have a Reflex working, then it makes sense. But it just doesn't have the same use case as Motiv Reflex because it's so catered to their software and so many people have moved on already. It's just a harder selling point now. Yep, and live tuning. So that's separate though, right? So that's the other thing about Rev 2. Like I said, it only works with boot mode because it only works with their custom ROM V2. And that's the big issue. That's why it's not working on B58s yet. There's less to do with it fitting a B58 engine and more they haven't done the software side of things to actually make it work. So think how long it took for custom ROM to come out for us to get flex fuel and anti-lag and map switching and all of that stuff. So now they're building custom ROM V2 with the live tuning, with all the other safeties, custom DTCs, having knock sensors show in your check engine light and stuff. So all of that is new. So they could have had Rev 2 on a shelf for the past 2 years and still be trying to figure out the software side to put in the custom code. So imagine, even if we didn't have Rev 2, like ignore that side of it, we're just waiting on the custom ROM V2. That's why we don't have it on the B58 yet. And why would they do S58 first? Because there's more S58 people that aren't tuned yet. They're still selling S58 cars that can be tuned. They are not selling any more B58 cars that can be tuned. All B58s now are Gen 3s that can't be flashed. So literally what we have out there is what's out there. Those are all the cars that can be tuned right now, have already been sold. So they're tapping into a new market with a $2,200 controller setup. You know, they're tapping into a market that's got newer money, more people that aren't tuned yet or haven't made their minds up yet. That's why they're doing S58 first. Oh, and that's something else somebody said. So Ecutech plus Reflex versus Rev 2. I don't think it's the same. It's still not the same because Reflex is still controlling everything. So Ecutech is doing your DME tune and Reflex is, you know, doing the auxiliary functions based on what the DME is doing. So you still have two controllers. But with Rev 2, you're basically only using the DME. At least that's my understanding. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I'm seeing with Rev 2, it's not a standalone controller. You can't put it on any car and have it work the same. It's something that uses the custom code in boot mode, customer on V2, to take readings from the car and manipulate settings on the car. What about MG Flasher? I hate to be that guy, but MG is so far behind now. I don't even think about it. Did you see what they released? Was it yesterday, or maybe I just saw it yesterday? MG doesn't even have flex fuel, right? We're still waiting on flex fuel capability from MG Flasher. Again, if I remember correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So this is what they were working on. Turbo induction noise, a checkbox to make your turbo louder. This isn't what we're asking for. We want flex fuel. But they're adding a turbo induction noise checkbox to make your turbo louder. So that's why I think MG isn't even in the conversation anymore. They're not really doing what it takes to compete. So for me right now, it's basically MHD versus boot mode. Ecutech, I think, is still good, but they lost a lot of people when they stopped supporting DME clones. So it made it harder for people to use Ecutech. Or what was it, DME clones or unlocks? One or the other. They don't support. I think actually it was unlocks. So yeah, that's why most people are on boot mode or MHD now. Sorry, I'm falling way behind on questions too. Yeah, so I mean that's the only benefit with Ecutech. So saying, with Ecutech and Reflex, you just flash once. That is correct, but it is flashing Reflex separately. Like it's built into the map that you're flashing, but it's flashing both at the same time. So if you if you take off the Reflex and put it on another car, it'll do the exact same thing. With Rev 2, it will not. If I plug in a Rev 2 on my car, it'll do absolutely nothing because my car doesn't have the custom code to actually make it work. So that's the difference. Let's see. And then, yeah, so at SEMA, I wasn't at SEMA, I was at PRI. So it's kind of like SEMA for actual race cars, not just for show cars. But if you guys saw that video, I went to PRI in Indianapolis last year, and the Reflex Pro was there. I don't know when it's coming out. My personal opinion is it's not going to be that much of a game changer, kind of similar to Rev 2. It's like if you already have a setup that works, then just stick with it. It's probably not going to be worth upgrading. What it sounded like is their main goal behind making it was to add capability for the C8 Corvette. So whatever the communication system or whatever they're doing on the C8, they had to add that capability to the Reflex for it to work. So that's basically what they were doing. It wasn't something that's going to all of a sudden make your car make more power or something like that if you already have Reflex. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens when it does come out. It's supposed to have more inputs and outputs. It has that little display so you can see what it's doing as well. So it's less of a black hole just hoping that it's functioning. You'll actually have a screen that tells you what's working. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be that much of a game changer myself. So yeah, let me know what you guys think on the Rev 2 stuff. But personally, I think it's cool. Like I said, I think if we had started like that out of the gate, it would have been awesome if Reflex was like that from the start and all the tuning companies and stuff were working with them to make it like that. That would be really cool. But I'm not sure at this point, man. I'm not sure. Let's see, what do I prefer? I prefer the style of integration that Rev 2 gives you. I do think that that is better. But I'm not going to switch from Reflex to Rev 2 because it's not going to do anything for me. But I think Rev 2 is a better way of adding on the auxiliary control systems without having to have like a box that's doing the work for you and can drop communication and all of that stuff and needs its own file that isn't messed up or whatever. I think it's better that way. Let's see, thoughts on coolant pressure safety. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea. Most of us probably don't need it. There was a guy at TX2K on the boot mode team, if I remember right, that lifted his head. And that's exactly what the coolant pressure safety is supposed to do. So if you have like a blown head gasket or you lift the head or any reason, the coolant system gets pressurized with the pressure in the engine. That's what that switch will do. So it puts a pressure limit on your cooling system. So it'll cut boost before you have like engine damage. So if you're running 40, 50, whatever PSI enough to lift the head, yeah, more power to you. I'm just at a measly 29 to 30. So I'm not at risk of that being an issue or needing that to control anything. Let's see. Can I explain what the boost exhaust flap thing does? Yeah. So the Rev 2, like I said, it's just picking up DME outputs or adding like extra DME outputs. And one of them is for an external boost controller. It can control it using data coming from your DME. So your DME is already sending data to your electronic wastegate, right? What they're doing instead for external wastegates is they're pulling a signal from the exhaust flap. And the reason is because the way that the exhaust flap is actuated, the way that data is sent is the same as how an electronic boost controller would send it, to like your Mac valve. So basically they can take that signal and read it and send data to the Mac valve so that it can open the wastegate based on the duty cycle you want. So with Reflex, you've got to like basically read boost from the DME to the Reflex. Then the Reflex measures your throttle position or whatever, crank position and everything, determines how much boost you want to run, then sends that to the Mac valve, and then the Mac valve controls your wastegate. Now it's going to be more like a stock DME just controlling it. But you don't have to have like the extra wires and stuff. It'll go straight through the Rev 2. So it's pretty slick to me. I don't even know how they figured that out because I would never think that the exhaust flap has any kind of intelligence built into it. You figure it's just like an on-off switch, but apparently it's like actually a signal that they can send and modify to control how much boost you're making. They can take that reading and convert it to like a boost control. Let's see, I'd run Rev 2 even just for the safeties. I'm DI only, but being able to monitor those safeties outweighs the price alone. 1,600 versus 5K for a new motor goes a long way. I mean, I can see what you're saying. And keep in mind, again, both Rev 2 and Reflex have safeties built in. I think most of the extra safeties just come from custom ROM V2. So even DI only, you can take advantage of it just flashing custom ROM V2 when it's available for your car. And you can set up the custom codes for whatever limiters you want to set in place or whatever. You can take advantage of that. So Rev 2 safeties are a lot more for people that have auxiliary systems. So like the meth flow monitoring or the meth level monitoring. I haven't seen that before. I don't even think that Reflex can do that. So being able to run a meth injection system with Rev 2 and getting a warning, just like for your gas tank that you're low on fuel, now you'll get a warning that you're low on meth or it'll cut power and save it. I think that's really nice for something that's literally completely separate. You will probably never see a meth injection system on a stock car, and being able to have that capability just like it's a stock, extra control from your DME, I think that's pretty major. You don't got to tell me, KO. I got 2 of them. We're good there, trust me. Let's see. I'm thinking to go full frame from dock raise. Do you think I need Motiv right away? No, no. I mean, so this is something I talk about over and over. So I'll just say it for everybody. Whatever your build is, plan out what you want, then build it around your goals. No build requires anything, right? These cars have been out here for long enough that there are a million different ways that you can make power or set times or whatever. So it's really just up to you to kind of determine what you want and then plan around your goals. So, I was joking about my car. Like, you see the turbo setup? This can make 500 horsepower. This can make 1200 horsepower. You don't know. And it will look the exact same. So it's based on my fuel upgrades, my tune, if I have supporting mods on my drivetrain, my trans, my engine build, my differential, all that stuff. But just slapping this on the car doesn't do anything, right? So it's really up to you to say, like, how much power do I want to make? What fuel do I want to run? What times do I want to run? Figure that out and then build your car around that. Because right now I spent a lot of money on this setup to make the same performance, the same times, same everything as people that made a lot less money, as setups that look a lot less dramatic and obvious. But it's just because that's what I wanted. I know I can make the same power without port injection and a low pressure fuel pump if I just run an ethanol mix, but I don't want to. I want to run full E85. So I add all these extra things onto my car to allow me to make that power on full E85 because I don't want to calculate a mix at the pump anymore. So it's stuff like that. Just think about what you want to do, how you want to do it, and then plan it around. But if you do come to a point where, you got to run full E85 and make over 600 horsepower and stuff like that, then yeah, Motiv with port injection and probably a low pressure fuel pump will be right around the corner. That'll be a part of your parts list. Let's see. Can I explain DME and ECU responsibilities? I mean, pretty high level, I guess. Yeah. Because the only thing that it's doing is controlling what your car, like how your car works. Right. So it's a bunch of inputs and outputs. It's basically measuring what you're doing and then telling the car to give you what you want. If you floor it, it turns up the boost, adds some load, and gives you the power that you're looking for. If you're cruising, and make sure that you're just sipping gas, getting the best efficiency possible. But all of the sensors and everything, these are all wired to your DME, and that's all controlling. It's basically talking back and forth with all of the signals and everything that's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how detailed you want to get, but basically, it's just controlling how the engine is running based on your inputs, based on your throttle position, steering position. It's measuring wheel speed and temperatures and all that stuff to keep it all safe. All right. Yeah, I know I'm missing a bunch of messages. Let's keep scrolling up. Let's see. Sorry, man. I'm missing messages because these questions are coming in fast. Let me scroll up. I think this is your question. I have a hypercore port injection with 1050 cc and stage 1 high pressure fuel pump. Do I think you should sell the stage 1 and get a stage 2? Because the stage 1 flows the same as TU. Yeah, so in my testing, if you guys saw that video I posted probably 3 years ago, I tested all the high pressure fuel pumps we had at the time. So I went from stock to TU to stage 1, Dodge stage 1 to Dodge stage 2. And what I found was when I went from my TU pump to my Dodge stage 1, I was able to run like an extra 1 PSI. It was almost the same. So for me, if you have a TU pump, I don't recommend getting a stage 1. Generally speaking, I just don't recommend stage 1 because it's so expensive. But if you already have it, I mean, especially if you already have port injection, going to a stage 2 probably isn't going to do anything. Like, I doubt you're hitting the limits of your setup with a hypercore. You probably don't even need the port injection. If you wanted to, you could ditch the port injection and just get a stage 2 and make the same power. But it depends on the fuel you're running and stuff. If you have pump gas versus E85, all of that's going to make a difference. See, do I see any 4 Series hitting 8 soon? I mean, it's possible, just nobody pushes them. I don't think there's a limitation on the chassis. Um, People just don't push them. Most people buy M340s. The M440 was out for what, 2 years less. So there's not as many out there. They're also more expensive. They're just not very popular car. But I think we have a low nines 440. That guy over in China, I can't remember his name, but he had that blue big boost 440 with an 84 EFR 8474. And I think he was running low nines, but he went through like multiple transmissions. I think he went through multiple engines and then he got rid of it. Now he's a tuner. Yep, LCP. That's right. So you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. So I think he's the fastest 4 Series that I know of. Oh, and it's about to start getting loud. If you guys hear rain, it's just raining outside. Oh, all right. Let's see what we got. I'm about to break into nines. Oh yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to tell anybody, but if you want to tell them, you can. I'm waiting to see what it does this year. It's probably pretty warm by you, though. You should be getting started now, right? Hopefully you're already out there. Let's see. What are my thoughts on the Gen 1 MT40s? I think they're a solid car. I think I did pretty seriously consider one. The only issue is if you're looking for like creature comforts and stuff, BMW was still nerfing the 2 Series during the Gen 1 days. So it's missing a lot of features that the 3 and 4 Series have. If you don't care about that, then, you know, it definitely doesn't matter. But it bugs me things like heads-up display, cameras, you know, just a lot of little features like that. Not having an oil temp gauge on the dash and stuff like that, that annoys me. I think the actual handling and driving dynamics are probably pretty good. I haven't driven one, so that's kind of why I was looking at getting one to drive for like a track car and stuff. But for daily driving, it's just missing some creature comforts I want. And it has a small gas tank, so you're filling up more often. I think it holds like 2 gallons less than a 340 and 440. So that's the only downside. Let's see, how do I feel about Max ECU? Yeah, speaking of that, we were talking about that during the last live stream because I know they got a pretty good push. I think it was one stock F30 that said that he was switching over. Somebody, maybe in Powerhouse or something, said that they were pushing Max ECU now. And then all of a sudden they disappeared. And I think it was because Rev 2 was coming out. And at first they were like the big thing for boot mode tuners or whatever. And everybody that said they were having issues with Reflex. And then it's like they're gone. So I don't know. It's much more like Reflex than Rev 2 is. But I don't think it's really in the conversation because people aren't leveraging it. You're not going to see integration and stuff like we're getting with Reflex because Reflex just took over the market. So right now, I think it's Rev 2 versus Reflex if you're on boot mode. Those are the 2 options you would consider. Let's see, drivetrain upgrades for 550 to 600 horsepower or torque. It really just depends, man. So drivetrain upgrades are less about the power and torque you're making and more about how you're driving your car. Because if you're going to be drag racing and launching on a track with really sticky tires and good prep, you can twist an axle or twist a drive shaft at a lot less than that. But if you're like me, you're just flooring it on the highway, and if you spin a little bit, you don't really care, then it's fine. You know, I've been driving with 600 horsepower for the past 4 years with no issues. But I do not hook first gear. I do not hook second gear. You know, I'm just okay with that. I'd rather spin a little bit and burn some tires than break something. So if you plan on like launching your car and driving it at a drag strip, trying to chase records, then yeah, I'd recommend doing at a minimum drive shaft. And then axles are probably the next weakest link. Let's Let's see, you're scared of snapping an axle or bending a drive shaft with 275 summer tires. I wouldn't say that's too risky on X Drive. I don't think I've seen anybody twist a drive shaft on the street at that level. The only people that I've seen people twist the drive shaft on a roll, but they were on a very, very sticky tire. If you're just on like Michelin Pilot Super Sports or something, it's not going to be a big deal. Like I run 200 treadwear tires and it's been fine. So, and rear is the weakest. Yeah. I don't think I've seen anybody break a front axle. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, rear is the main one, and then of course the drive shaft. So I don't have any X Drive cars, so I don't have any personal experience there, but it's just what I've seen from other people that break stuff all the time. Well, not all the time, but usually what I see when people break stuff. Don't say that. Don't say that. People have definitely twisted a drive shaft on stock turbo. That has happened. But it was at a drag strip. They launched and it just hooked up, and that's all it takes. Let's see. Did I talk about that yet? No. We'll talk about that when it's time, when everything comes together. Do I think building a G87 is smart? I do, but I'm a little weird, you know? I think G87 is probably one of the better S58 platforms if you want to enjoy driving. It's probably not the best for drag racing since they don't make the X Drive version yet, but I still think it could be very capable, especially if you're dedicated to driving on a drag strip. I mean, A90s have no issue getting fast without X Drive, so it's really about setting up the car for that. But you know, I think it's a cool platform. The big challenge is they're just not as light compared to the M3 and M4 as they used to be. Like the older M2s were a lot lighter. Now it's a lot closer to the bigger M3 and M4, but it should still have better driving dynamics. Yep, there you go. There's an example. I know I've seen a couple, and actually I think they were all 4 series. But I've seen a couple examples of people that have twisted a drive shaft on stock turbo. So it's just something that can happen, especially if you're pushing like a higher torque setup. But usually it's on a drag strip when it just hooks up. It just happens. I think yours was almost more like a freak accident because I've never seen a rear wheel drive car break a drive shaft on the street. You just had some magic going on to make that happen. And yeah, they're still, so the M2 will start getting X Drive at the end of this year. So give it a couple months. I don't know if it'll be sold this year or maybe early next year, but they're starting production this year. So M2s will be coming with X Drive. Say by next March, we should have them at dealers. What's my dream American V8 car? A Corvette. That's easy. C706 with a lot of aero and a manual transmission. I think I actually posted one on my story or something, or there's one in like my Kevin Spec stories. But yeah, I think that would be pretty tough. If I'm not limited to a V8, then I'm getting a Viper. And speaking of which, I didn't consider a ZL1. Yeah. The ZL1's up there too. I still think I'd probably drive a Corvette before a ZL1 1LE, but yeah, they're both up there. Did you miss Motiv versus Rev 2? Yeah, sorry, man. I mean, we can talk through it a little bit, but that was what we talked about in the first, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. Basically, my perspective is if you already have a Motiv set up working, then there's no point to switching to Rev 2. If you have MHD, then you can't run Rev 2. So the only reason you would run Rev 2 is if you have boot mode or you're not unlocked and tuned yet and you're thinking of going with boot mode, and that's like an option for you basically. So you have to have boot mode, and that has to be like something that you haven't taken advantage of yet. Then it starts to make sense. But personally, I do think Rev 2 is a lot better in how it's implemented compared to Motiv. It's a much better style to get the extra outputs and inputs and control stuff. It's just late, man. It's way too late. So it kind of lost its benefit, even if it is like a really creative solution. So, personal opinion. This isn't sponsored. Nobody told me to do this. I just like arguing. Nobody's really arguing with me yet. Everybody just seems kind of open to my idea. But yeah, C8. No, I do not like C8s. I'm sorry. There's a lot of things to me that are wrong with C8s. I much prefer a C7. They're very capable. You know, I'm sure I would enjoy driving one, but I have no interest in actually owning one. And it's funny because we have a shop where I used to live in Louisville, about an hour and a half away, and they are getting into modding and building C8s for the track. And they used to be kind of like a K Miata shop or a V8 Miata shop, and they would build all these Miatas and make them really fast. And the Chevy was enough for them to switch. And now this is like kind of their new, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, it's kind of like their bread and butter. They're trying to convince everybody to buy like regular, just base model Corvettes, not even Z06s or anything fancy. Drop it off at their shop with probably, I don't know, 10, 20 grand. And they'll give you a car that'll lap GT3 RSs, ZL1s, you know, all kinds of cars. And they don't add any power to it. They just put a really good tire, good aero, good brakes, lower the weight, and they're fast. I'll be racing some of them next weekend, so we'll see. Yeah, C8s are solid, man. C8s are good performers. I hate the design. I hate how they look, especially like the rear end. I don't like the taillights. When people are like, oh, it looks like a Ferrari or something, like I don't see it. It looks just off to me. I don't know. The C7, it's like my default, like what I like. That's the C7 proportions and everything. It nails it. C6 and C7. Those are my top two. Anyway, rant over. Let's see, what do we got? Thoughts on the new Adro body kit? I'm not a big fan of Adro, since we're just talking looks too. I don't think that they've improved a lot of the cars that they've modified. I understand that like a lot of what they're modifying isn't loved, so it's kind of like open to interpretation. But now it's kind of looking like they're slapping the same recipe on everything. And if you put all of their body kits side by side, especially the lower bumpers, they look almost the same. And that's just kind of what I'm noticing. I think they could get a little more creative with it, or a little more aggressive versus just putting the same shape and features. Everybody's trying to make it like kind of a cheaper M5 front end, almost like an F90 front end. They're trying to slap on everything, and I'm not really a fan. So I don't know. That's just me. But I think the A90 looks really good out of the box. So when they modified it, it kind of threw me off. And then the M2 one, all they did was like soften all the lines. So I don't know. But the aero seems cool, like the wing and stuff. That seems pretty cool. I just know most people are focused on like the front bumpers. Let's see, when will 21 B58 get unlocked? Your guess is as good as mine, man. If this was like 2 years ago, I would have bet money that it was right around the corner. Like, I legitimately can't believe it's taken this long. It's really throwing me off. So I don't know. To me, it's just not a priority anymore. I don't know if that even makes sense. Like, so many people are just trying to find different methods around it, but nobody seems to be on the cusp of getting like an OBD unlock around the corner. I don't know. Now, we do have stateside unlocks, or stateside clones, or whatever they're calling it now. We're starting to come up with those options, but people are advertising it differently. You kind of just got to pay attention. So I think the main one I saw was 1769 that they were working on an unlock solution. So I would check out their page if you're looking for something like that. M440 should have came with regular grills. Yeah, all of them should have come with regular grills. And it's about to get worse. Have you guys seen the new class? It's about to get a lot worse. The new class looks like almost like a Challenger and a BMW got in a fight, and the BMW drugged the Challenger front end with it. It looks very awkward. Let's see. They should make an M8 style bumper for the M440. So I think that's the other thing with the Adro kits. It looks aftermarket. And I think that's something that bothers me. I like OEM plus when it comes to looks. I don't want something that looks like it was tacked on. I want something that looks like it could have came from the factory. So if it's going to look better, that's okay. But I don't want it to necessarily look modified. And I think that's what the Adro kits do. Like they look like show car body kits, which is what some people want, but that's just not for me. And you said you were into them at first, but then it started looking like Dodge putting SRT on everything. See, that I know it's not just me, because every car that they build, it starts looking the same. And when I think it first hit, everybody was just excited because they wanted something different. And then it's like, I think we saw the A90 one, then the M2 one, and then I was like, that I'm not sure about that. And even like the G80 and G82 ones, I'm not sold on it. It almost looks even more like a pig nose than the original bumper. Let's see. Sorry again. If I missed your question, feel free to put it in the chat again. I got to keep scrolling to catch up because the chat's moving kind of fast. Let's see. I keep getting torque limit and drops in power when brake boosting. With this as the limit code, braking load drive axle. Can XHP take this out? So I'm not sure XHP would take that out. If you don't have XHP already, I would recommend it either way. But there are a lot of codes that aren't trans limit codes or things that you want to disable. So we were talking about this before when people were asking, is a rod Sutphin tune worth it? And to me, the rod tune is basically the XHP drag mode with those safeties still on. So it makes sure that you're not going to break anything, but it lets the car be as fast as possible. And that's really the best case scenario, right? Like you're not going to disable your NOx sensors to make your engine make more power. It's just not safe. Yeah, you might have good fuel and you might be confident, but one time it doesn't work and that's all it takes for something to let go. So, I mean, I would pay attention to the code, check out a log maybe when you're brake boosting, see if something else is going on. But braking load drive axle sounds more like either a wheel is spinning or something is not right. Like that sounds like something is wrong. And you might be holding the brake too much, maybe you're putting too much gas in it. It's really a balance when you're brake boosting to sit on both pedals without overwhelming the system. And don't sit on it for too long because that can definitely burn something up. Let's see, do I live stream often? I don't think I do. I'm trying to live stream at least once a month. I haven't done a good job of that yet, but that's kind of my goal. So hopefully I can live stream at least once a month. Let's see, next car. You guys will see. So I'm still working on figuring that out. And I talked about this before, but this is probably the last year with the 340. I've done everything I wanted to do with it. I almost got rid of it last year, but I decided to keep it one more year because I have like a chip on my shoulder and I want to prove that the car is faster than it was last year. And the good news is we've got a track day coming up, and I deliberately did not change anything right before the track day which I have not been doing well the past couple. Usually like the day before or day of, I'm still changing something, and then I get to the track and it doesn't work well. So this time it's working. I'm not touching it. It's jacked up because I've got to do like a brake fluid flush and stuff like that. But I'm not changing any parts. We're just going to go and enjoy it. Hopefully get some good weather. And yeah, I think I've got 4 track days planned this year, and then it's probably gone. So we'll see after that. Hopefully some prices come down and I can get something else more fun. So stay tuned. Let's see, should I get the MHD Flex Fuel Kit or the Motiv Reflex and the Motiv Reflex, or just get Motiv? So if you get Motiv, there's no need for an MHD Flex Fuel Kit because Motiv does flex fuel control for you. So it's one or the other. You definitely don't need both. But if you get the if you get the Motiv kit, you do still need to buy a flex fuel sensor to wire up to the Motiv Reflex. But like when I switched my car over, so the 340 started with MHD off the shelf flex fuel maps with the MHD flex fuel kit. Then when I got the Motiv Reflex, I simply unplugged the sensor from the MHD box and plugged it into the Motiv box, and then did everything else for port injection. So it's really that simple. Let's see, any thoughts on upgrading the torque converter and transfer case when upgrading the trans to stage 2, or just get stage 2 without the other 2? I don't really think it's needed for most people, but it just kind of depends on what your goals are. I mean, kind of like everything. So if you're going to be launching your car, if you're going to be focused on drag racing, what's the benefit of a torque converter? It lets you raise the RPM so you can build more boost and leave harder. If you're not going to be launching your car, you don't need a torque converter. So exhibit A, I don't launch my car, so I have no need for a torque converter. I could be making 1,000,000 horsepower and I'm still going to be doing 40 rolls like a goober. So there's no reason for me to get it. On the transfer case side, that one we used to argue about as well, because I feel like you don't know the limits of the transfer case. Nobody really seems to know, and you don't hear a lot of people breaking them. So I think the transfer case is kind of like a while I'm there upgrade for a lot of people, but most people don't need it. I think it's probably a lot stronger than people let on, especially because if you've got a sticky tire, there shouldn't be a lot of slip in the transfer case. You know, I think the only people that I've heard of scorching their transfer cases, either they used X-Delete, messed something up doing burnouts and stuff like that and smoke the clutches, or there are like a handful of people where if you have an X-Drive car and you floor it and only the rear wheels spin, then you probably have broken or smoked your transfer case. But most situations, like, you wouldn't even know. Like, I haven't really seen like a catastrophic transfer case failure or whatever. So why haven't I gotten an M440 yet? I only have 3 spots in my garage, man. So I already have to park one car outside. I don't really have use for one. The 340, it was definitely a consideration, though. So when I got the 340, I was looking at another 4 Series. I was looking at a 4 Series Grand Coupe. Of course, the 340, the M240. I was also looking at M340s and M440s, but the M440s hadn't come down yet, because when I got this car, it was 2022. So they were still pretty new. And then the M340s that I saw were really bad, because you guys remember I got this car from Copart, right? So there were a lot of cars that were like really bad shape, and I just wanted something that I could fix myself. Yes, the M440 is also ugly, but just for something to build for the channel, I wasn't too worried about that too much. It seemed kind of different from what most people were doing, but yeah, I couldn't find an option in my budget, so that was off the table. The M340 looks like a Honda nowadays. I'll let the guys respond to that. I think it's funny because I'm very much a coupe person. Like, I prefer coupes, but I think BMW struggled with their coupes lately, and they really changed the game when they made the E90 M3. I think that was the first car that I was like, the sedan might look better than the coupe because they gave it really wide hips, like really aggressive flares and stuff, and it just looked way more aggressive than the E92. And then it was the same thing for the F80. Now the G80, I think it's not as different looking, but it definitely is different. But yeah, and then of course the grills and stuff. So to me, a lot of the modern 3 Series look better than the 4 Series, but I still prefer my 440. Let's see. F32 looks better than F30. Oh, we had this argument. I think it's kind of funny too, because when you put them side by side, they look a lot more different than people realize, in my opinion, especially when I'm looking at them in the garage. But the 4 Series, it's lower, it's wider. Like everything about it is more aggressive than the 3 Series. But then when you get to the M3 and M4, the M3 looks better than the M4. I'm just keeping it 100% honest. I wish the 440 had those like aggressive flares and stuff. It just looks so much better to me. But, you know, it is what it is. And I think because BMW does that because the standard 3 Series is so narrow. So to make them both the same width, they have to add those really aggressive hips and flare it out so that it can fit the wider wheels. On the 440, it's already pretty wide. So on the M4, they just make it a little bit wider and they just kind of stretch it out a little bit. So, yeah, I know we got a lot of opinions in the chat. Everybody likes their car, so there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, just my personal preference. I really did want an M340 though. I thought that would be like a nice touch, but they were still kind of expensive at the time. Like a busted M340 back in 2021, 2022, it was still like $30,000-$40,000. I don't know if you guys remember like how crazy prices were. People were buying a $60,000 car, putting 30,000 miles on it, and selling it for $60,000. So one that was busted with like the whole side caved in was still 35 grand. I wasn't gonna spend that much on a car that was probably salvage title. And I cheated on this 340. I think I talked about it a little bit, but I bought it from Copart, clean title. It's not salvage title. And it just had engine issues. So there was no like body damage or anything. And then we were able to fix it. So I would love to find another deal like that. When I get rid of the 340, that's probably the first thing I'm going to do is check Copart and see if I can find a good deal. Just get an M3 if you have the money. Hey, I mean, that's the cheat code, right? Go get an M3 Comp-X drive and go break some records. So yeah. And I think I said it before. I wouldn't mind an S58 car. They're a lot harder to work on. We've really been spoiled with these B58s, and we're slowly coming to realize it as we upgrade. Get an S58 or an S63, and then you realize how much joy it is not to work on BMWs. Let's see. I have a 2020 M340 doing stage 1. Shouldn't make it still really reliable, right? Yeah. Stage 1 is nothing. Stage 1 is literally nothing. These cars are super underrated from the factory. So doing a stage 1 tune, you're not gonna do anything wrong. See, convince the wife to get a family car. So we actually talked about that because when we got the X7, the goal was to be the family car. It was replacing the X5 that was only really driven as the family car. And now she drives it all the time. She likes it a lot. So it was like, that was kind of the question, like, do you need like a smaller SUV or something? And then do we mess with that? I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, we got this year to decide. It'll come after the 3 Series leaves. Michael, man, you're on one today. M340 is a TikTok car. Yeah, I think so too. The X3Ms are a good price. So a lot of the older ones you can find for really good deals. They're still kind of expensive. There's still a little bit of M tax on them. We were also looking at X5Ms, which I'm not sure I really want, but I was just curious because one of my friends got one and I was looking at the price. Those aren't bad either. But it seems like they also hold their value. Like if you get them after like 50,000 miles and you can still put another like 20 or 30,000 miles on it and it doesn't lose a whole lot of value. But once they get over 100K, then it just tanks. And then even I get concerned. Like, I don't know if I want to risk it, especially for a car like, you're not driving, you're giving it to somebody else to drive. And, your partner or whatever, you're telling them this is going to be your daily driver. I'll need something reliable. So that would be my main concern. Let's see. Can you talk about pushing the stock turbo on the Gen 2 B58? I'm on MHD, off the shelf, and wastegate duty cycle is in the 70s with 22 psi. So I think the thing about Gen 2s are they just handle boost a lot better, especially the 6-port cars, like the low compression engines. If you've got like a 340, 440, 21 plus Supra, and you're pushing like good boost, it can handle it. Because I think Body's car, that M340 that broke the record, I think they said it was pushing like 35 psi or something. So it can handle a lot. Like I think it's not too uncommon to see high 20s on an ethanol tune on a Gen 2. So no, there's sorry for yelling. There's not a thing. There's no such thing as a Gen 1.5. There is no such thing as a Gen 1.5. We can argue about that later. But coming back, I'm sorry, I just saw your question and had to answer that. But on a Gen 2, yeah, it can handle a lot of boost because for whatever reason on the Gen 1s, you're not even worried about the engine. It's just like the turbo gets overworked and they blow up above like 23 psi generally. Whereas it's relatively common to see like Supras and stuff pushing like 28, 29 on a custom tune. So, and your wastegate duty cycle being in the 70s just kind of reinforces that. Because if I was pushing 22 psi, my car would probably be running like high 80s wastegate duty cycle or low 90s. So I do think before we thought like the stock turbo on Gen 1 and Gen 2 were really similar, but I think the Gen 2 is bigger and it can handle a lot more for sure, based on what we've seen so far. Okay, so let's talk about Gen 1 versus Gen 1.5. Raise your hand if you've heard of Gen 1.5. And then raise your hand if you think you're a part of the problem. Yeah, because that's me. Okay. So when Kelford came out with their cams, they had 2 different designs that they had to make. They have to make 2 different cams for Gen 1 because there are different solenoids on the ends of the cam. So there is basically the actuator on the outside, and then there's the central valve on the inside of the cam. The central valve screws into the cam, and it has a specific thread pattern. And around 2017, BMW changed the central valve and changed the thread pattern on that central valve. So when they changed it, they now have to basically make a different cam with a different thread pattern so that you can just swap your solenoid over. So Kelford needed a way to tell the difference or post them differently. So they started saying they have Gen 1 cams and Gen 1.5 cams. And then all of a sudden, everybody started saying, oh, I have a Gen 1.5 B58. So it makes more power. Gen 1.5s don't have fuel injector issues. Gen 1.5s don't have PCV issues. Gen 1.5s are faster and more reliable and blah, blah, blah. That's not real. It's not real. It's something that Kelford literally made up so that they could post their cams and show the difference between the two. And you'll notice nobody talked about Gen 1.5 until Kelford posted that. And they even explain it in their paperwork. This is what Gen 1.5 is. I've seen people say Gen 1.5 has a better turbo, has stronger valve springs, it has forged internals. Like, that's not a thing. LCI cars are better, but that's because LCI cars look better. But that has nothing to do with this Gen 1.5 issue, what people are calling Gen 1.5. So just something, again, that is created by a company to explain the difference between products. And the problem, I think, is that we didn't think there was an easy way to tell the difference. But there is. If you remove the actuator and just put a mirror, you can see the actual head of the central valve is different. One is like a hex bolt, and then the other one's like a 22 point, like special socket or whatever. So that's how I checked on my car. So you could set that up in their website and just say that's the difference, the A style central valve or the B style central valve or something. And you check it, make sure you know what it is, and then pick the right one. So I think that was that's something that obviously gives me a lot of heartburn. Like I end up feeling like I caused the issue because I was talking about the Kelford cams. I did the Kelford cams on my car. I was talking about Gen 1 versus Gen 1.5. And I don't know if I just didn't clearly explain that or whatever, but it became like its own animal and people have been running with it for the past, 2 years. So yeah, Gen 1.5 is not a thing. Let's see. Thank you. Thank you. E4L. I can't read your name, but thank you so much for sending that over. Super Final Edition validates Stage 1 tune safety. I would say to a degree. There are a lot of things that validate Stage 1 tune safety, but people forgot even with the Gen 1. So our cars came with 320 horsepower. Then the M240i came with 335 horsepower. Then they sold the M Performance tune that came with 360 horsepower. So there's like a bunch of variations of how much power the same engine makes depending on the car it's in and stuff like that. Now, I don't think any car makes the same power as an off-the-shelf Stage 1 tune, but, it shows that at least the OEMs recognize it can be pushed. Also, keep in mind the final edition, from what the marketing materials say, it has like an aftermarket or a high flow, I guess I shouldn't say aftermarket downpipe, but high flow downpipe, reduced emissions, like some other changes to make it work. All that stuff probably isn't necessary for the power it makes, but those are changes that they made. So I'm more curious to see how it actually comes out, because especially the downpipe, when they said that it had like a high flow Wi-Fi password. So that's what we'll call you. Thank you, Wi-Fi password, for the super chat. But yeah, I think they tried to say, all these things that they did to make it safe. And every OEM kind of does that because they got to over-engineer every upgrade to make sure it's not an issue. But regardless, before the Super Final Edition came out, we've had 5+ years of Gen 2 B58s making Stage 1 power. We've had 10 years of Gen 1 B58s making well, not quite 10 years, but 8 years of tuning Gen 1 B58s where they've been making Stage 1 power. So, it's safe. That's one thing I did do on the X7 right away. We put a Stage 1 tune on it. It's been fun. It's been quick. And I don't have any concerns about that. I will say it again for everybody in the back. The Stage 1 tune is the best value tune, best value upgrade you can do on your car. $400, $500 for an extra 80 horsepower with no other mods, nothing beats it. Nothing will ever beat it. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Oh, this is scrolling. Don't scroll. I have a 2016 340i xDrive. I can't decide between coils or springs. I want the lowered look without the ride feel getting rough. So personally, I have had great luck with springs. And I know somebody's going to want to crucify me in the chat for that, but I think springs are great. I have H&R springs on the 340, the H&R Sport springs. It gives you the lowered look. It's not slammed like my 440, but it's still lowered. It still looks better than stock ride height. Rides very good. My car has adaptive suspension, so in comfort mode, it still soaks up bumps and stuff without any issue. And it rides great, and I haven't had any problems with it. So I still recommend springs to people, especially if you're on a budget. You can buy used springs for like $150 to $200. And then when you don't want them anymore, you sell them for the same price because they don't really lose value. So I still think springs are cool. Coilovers give you more adjustability, but they don't necessarily ride better, especially if you lower it as much as I did on the 440. So just depends on your goals. The only reason I went from springs to coilovers on the 440 was to go lower. See, Kern, if S55 was so good, why did it get retired while B58 turned to S58 for new M cars? I might have missed a point of reference there. The main reason why the S55 was retired was because of emissions. And BMW said that that's the same reason they couldn't make the M2 with the N55 anymore. They sold it as a competition and an upgrade and all this stuff, but really they had to change the engine because the N55 didn't meet the Euro emission standards. And same thing for the S55. I think they did a much better job with the B58 to plan ahead so they could use the same structure in future cars and still meet the new requirements, because it's a much more capable and like modular engine. Like you can easily swap parts around it and still keep it a B58. Let's see. When is it necessary to upgrade from the TU to a Dodge Stage 1? Never. Do not get a Dodge Stage 1. A Dodge Stage 1 is basically the same as a TU. So if you ever need to upgrade, just get a Stage 2. Now, if you get a bigger turbo, it just depends on your power and your goals and what you're shooting for. So if you want to run 600 plus horsepower on an ethanol mix or something like that, then get a Dodge Stage 2. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I know I'm trying to catch up. If I miss your question after like 5 or 10 minutes, feel free to just type it in again. The chat's moving really fast for me. Have there been any reviews on the metal oil filter housing? Yeah, actually, I think a lot of people have posted that they've had good luck with it. Most people swap the gasket, so they use an OEM gasket instead of the one that comes with it. But otherwise, it seems like people aren't having any problems with it. So it seems good to go. I know I've sold a couple through my Amazon store as well. So people are buying them. They seem okay. I haven't used it personally, so I can't give personal feedback, but I feel like if it was a problem, we'd probably hear more about it by now. So it seems okay. But again, most people's OEM oil filter housings are lasting years. I mean, my car is almost 10 years old. So, it's just kind of up to you. Is it worth taking that risk and potentially having an issue in 5 years or something? I don't know. But as far as we know, I don't think there's any like manufacturing defects where they're leaking right out of the box or cracking and failing. It seems like everybody that's installed them over the past year or so hasn't had any issues, or nobody's posted about it if they have. Let's see. What are my thoughts on Vargas and Fuel It products? So I want to be very clear on this one because some people don't know what's going on there. But Vargas and Fuel It aren't together. Vargas is working with Performance Fueling Solutions, so PFS. And then BMS, or Burger Motorsports, works with Fuel It. So keep those two separated. Vargas and PFS are in a bucket. They work together. And then Burger Motorsports, that makes JB4 and all that stuff, they work with Fuel It very closely together. So I think all of them kind of have their own thing. Personally, I guess I just go with products that work well. And I haven't heard a lot of great things about PFS, so I don't usually recommend it to people. Their low pressure fuel pumps a lot of times have issues. They require some extra modification to fit their port injection fuel rail, different things like that. So to me, I'd much rather have like a Fuel It low pressure fuel pump like what I have. It's still a little bit annoying to install and stuff, but it's better in my opinion. Let's see. ZF8 is greater than 15-year-old and 54 DCTs. Thanks for that, Michael. I didn't want to say it personally, but my license plate says it for me. My big DCT LOL license plate. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny looking back because a lot of people don't remember when these cars first came out, how much drama there was. And somebody told me like everybody liked the F series, everybody liked, the new 3 series, and that was not the case. I don't know how many of you guys were paying attention back in 2012 or 2013. But people really didn't like these cars. They didn't like the torque converter automatic. They didn't like the headlights touching the grill. They didn't like the weight. They thought they were too big. They didn't like the electric power steering. These cars got a lot of flack. And personally, I'd like it way better than any E-Series BMW. So that's just my personal preference. The ZF is awesome. It looks better. It drives better. It's easier for daily driving, and it's better on track. I don't see how you can argue with that. The biggest downside with the new F-Series BMWs is they didn't allow us to run the same super cool, like concave and low offset wheels because they made the body and the control arms and stuff different. So that's the only downside, because on like an E46 or an E92, you can run some really cool wheels in the back, and now we lost a lot of that. I don't think I've seen a Vargas turbo car at TX2K. You're probably correct. I don't think we have either. Or if we did, we didn't hear about it, but I don't think so. Let's see. So at TX2K, obviously we got KLM top mount turbo cars. We've got Doc Race top mount turbo cars. We have Big Boost cars. We have their Pure 800 cars. They have CTS turbo hybrid cars. And that's probably it that I can think of. I don't think we've seen a Dynamic AutoWorks turbo at TX2K yet. We haven't seen a Vargas turbo at TX2K. Yeah. Somebody needs to fix that, man. You've got a year to plan it out. Let's see. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. Glad to share what I can. Anything on Fuel It versus Dorch? So I think the biggest issue with Fuel It is you have to bend your own fuel lines. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but everything that I've seen with Fuel It, like, yes, it's cheaper, but you have to bend your fuel lines, and it just isn't as well integrated as the Dorch high pressure fuel pump. So I'm more of a fan of Dorch. It comes with everything you need. Shameless teaser, I guess, but I will be testing some new fuel upgrades soon. Like I said, I didn't want to change anything right before my track day. So it'll be like in a couple weeks, we'll start seeing some videos on that, and I'll be doing some testing on some fuel upgrades. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think when we kind of reveal that the LT4 standard iron pumps, whatever you want to call it, are what are being used by Dorch, everybody tried to jump on it and start copying it. And now all the new ones that are coming out are completely different. So, yeah. Let's see. I know you made a video about them using GM pumps essentially, but could you just buy a GM pump and use the connector lines? That's what some people have done. The feedback that I've gotten is it might not flow quite as much because the Dorch pumps aren't exactly the same. They are using the same like build kind of, like the shape and everything. They're starting with that design, but it has different internals, different relief valves and things inside of it to optimize it for what works as, a Dorch Stage 2. So I've seen people use it. They've had success with it, but I think it doesn't quite flow as much. And then, of course, you've got to do all the extra work to build the adapters and the fuel lines and stuff like that. So not as easy or cheap of a proposition as it might seem. Like, you can't just go buy it from a junkyard and slap it on. It still needs a lot of work for it. Let's see. Scrolling. How many questions have I missed? Let's see. Has anyone had to do a valve cover? So, one thing I haven't really seen on the B58 are valve cover leaks. So that was very common on older, like E90s and N52s and N54s and stuff like that. You have your valve cover leaking, and then it causes the car to smoke and stuff like that. I really haven't seen that on the B58. Like, it doesn't seem like something that you just have to replace every 100,000 miles. But a lot of people have PCV issues, and that's what usually leads people to replace the valve cover. Now, of course, we know that we can just replace the diaphragm, so it's easier. But yeah, you don't really see people just replacing valve covers and valve cover gaskets at set intervals. At least I haven't. Let's see, do I have experience with tuning B48s? Not really. I haven't done much content on it because I don't see a lot about it. I haven't really done a lot of research on it besides that last video where we were talking about the A90. But personally, I think like most things, you upgrade the turbo and you make similar power to the big brother on stock turbo, which is exactly what we're seeing. They had that upgraded turbo car making around 500 wheel, which is similar to what a maxed out stock turbo can make on a B58. So, that's kind of like the extent of my knowledge. You bolt on a B48 and make, stock bolt on B58 numbers. This chat is so much more active than the Discord. Yeah. Well, I think the thing about the Discord is most people are just in there looking for help. Here we're ragging on people, talking about other engines and other platforms. This chat is a good time. If gas isn't the problem with timing corrections, what else could it be? That's a good question. Most times it is gas. And I've talked to a lot of people that fight me on that. They know that their gas is good or they've got E85 or whatever. But pretty much every time I've seen it's gas quality. Even if it's the same station that always is good for you, one time they might just have bad gas. But if it's not gas, it could be heat. It could be high IATs. It could be poor cam timing. Like if you're having VANOS issues and stuff like that, then that'll affect airflow, which can affect timing. You can also have weak spark, so bad spark plugs, bad ignition coils, things like that. Or it could just be the tune. Because if you're getting timing corrections, it doesn't necessarily mean the car isn't making good power. You could just be requesting too much for what you're doing. So if you're requesting too much timing, then it's going to have corrections and you just need to dial it back in your tune. So yeah, it just depends. It could be a lot of things, but 99% of the time it's gas. Nothing can fix it as well as adding a little high quality fuel. Mo, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Let's see your question. Do I need to upgrade my shocks if I get springs? I see people blowing their shocks with springs. I daily it and need reliability. So again, I'm going to go against the grain a little bit here. Personally, I've never had an issue running aftermarket springs on stock shocks. I think it depends on a lot. If you're driving over really rough roads, you might have issues. If you drive through potholes at high speed, then you could have a lot of problems. So for me, I've never had issues, but I also drive my car like a lowered car, even when it's not lowered, to be honest. You dodge potholes, you don't hit bumps head on, you take bumps slowly. And I feel like it's a lot of it is how you drive it and kind of like the conditions that you drive in. So, I mean, upgrading shocks works, but shocks are a wear item no matter what. Shocks will leak over time. Shocks will fail over time. Yeah. So personally, I don't think you need to have shocks, especially if you're not going with super low springs. It just kind of depends on your conditions. But shocks can add some ride quality because if they have a little more travel and they're kind of tuned to be lower, then it can soak up bigger bumps easier. So that's kind of the benefit there. And you can get adjustable valving and stuff, or adjustable damping, which is nice on track or whatever. But for me, especially if you have adaptive suspension, I would not ditch that. for anything. I truly underestimated just how nice adaptive suspension is. I got base suspension on the 440 because I knew I was going to be upgrading the coilovers at some point. But on the 340, like the adaptive suspension spoiled me. So that's why I went with springs on that car instead of coilovers, so I could lower it, but still keep the comfort and sport mode stuff. And it's been great. Why don't people use race gas maps for the B58? I would love to know as well. I would love to know as well. I would love to know why people don't use race gas, period. And I'm a part of the problem because I don't use race gas. But people are truly underestimating the benefit of race gas with all the stuff we're doing to run E85 when you could do half as much of that and just run race gas. That is a very good question, Michael. And I would love to test that at some point. I want to make some content on that at some point. Let's see, where's the Discord link? So the Discord's for Patreon members. So if you join the Patreon, you get access to the Discord. It's $5 a month. I guess I forgot to plug that too. So yeah, I know I really suck at responding to DMs and stuff like that. If you guys need help, just be patient. You probably saw my auto reply if you message me on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. I try to respond to people when I can, but I just get too many messages. So if you need like priority support, you really need help, you want somebody to walk you through your build and stuff like that, join the Patreon. It's $5 a month. You get access to the Discord. You get, support. You can message me. If you do $10 a month, then you also get to see the videos early and without ads. So all my videos get posted on there without ads. We also do giveaways and stuff like that. So yeah, cool spot to be. I'm probably a little biased, but that's my plug for the Patreon. But yeah, I mean, so let's talk about this. People are talking about race gas. If you got race gas, everything that you did to make power on E85 wouldn't be needed. Think about it that way. You can make the same power without all the mods to run E85 if you just use race gas. You don't need an upgraded fuel pump. You don't need upgraded port injection and low pressure fuel pump or whatever the limit is that you ran into. You'd have an extra 20 to 30% more fuel capacity just running race gas instead. So I always wonder that. It's like, if we're chasing micro records, like, oh, fastest car on stock fuel system, just run race gas. You could probably make 500 wheel horsepower on a stock fuel system if you ran race gas. No TU pump or anything. Stock turbo, 22 or whatever PSI, 15 degrees of timing, stock fuel pump. I bet that's possible. But nobody's going to try it because race gas is expensive and E85 is just the thing. But in my mind, it's like, I need to try that someday. I want to make a video on that someday just because I want to see. I want to know. I'm used to the Volkswagen world where if you get like an APR tune, they didn't make E85 maps. They made race gas maps, 100 octane tunes. So you could race on 100 octane. But yeah, nobody does that anymore. If people buy race gas, it's race ethanol. They don't buy like just 100 octane. Let's see, can you use MHD with Motiv, or is Motiv just another tuning platform? No. So Motiv is a couple different things. Motiv is a company, Motiv Motorsports, and they kind of do their own thing. They have a lot of products, but their main thing is the Motiv Reflex controller, and that is an add-on controller to your car. So it controls auxiliary systems like turbos, fuel setups, fuel pumps, meth injection, nitrous, all that stuff. So you still need a tune to flash the DME and control the DME. The Motiv Reflex is just a box on top of that. Now, a lot of people don't know Motiv also offers custom tuning. They also offer a lot of other things. I don't know if I'd call it like a software company or a tech company or something, but Motiv Motorsports is its own business. So they make the Motiv Reflex. They make a lot of other stuff. If you go to their website, you'll see what they kind of have to offer. But I mean, there are even people tuned by them. You buy a Motiv Reflex, they'll tune your DME, they'll tune your Motiv Reflex. They'll set you up with whatever you need. Let's see. Should I change my spark plugs before tuning my car? I changed them at 44,000 miles when I was stock at the dealership. Now I'm at 49,000 and I'm about to go stage 2. What do I think? No, you shouldn't need to change it. If they only have 5,000 miles on them, they should be fine. If you change plugs for a tuned car, you're going to be doing the exact same thing. You're just going to be installing stock plugs at the stock gap, same thing the dealership did. So I wouldn't say you need to do anything with your plugs. That's the benefit of the B58, guys. It's easy. You just make more power without doing anything. And yeah, don't gap them. Don't change the gap. Yeah, I know I got to go live more often. I do apologize. And this isn't even what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be able to look at the Rev 2 website and, like I said, talk about Motiv versus Rev 2 and stuff. So I need like some real streaming software so I can like share my screen and we can watch videos together, like interact and stuff, do this properly. So I'll be working on that. That's my goal for this year, to go live at least once a month and have like a better setup on how we do this. Let's see. Are there more issues with running a JB4 instead of getting an ECU unlock? So I want to put this accurately. I think the way that I would say it is a JB4 does not give you the same safety and control that an ECU unlock and proper flash tune would give you. Yes, a JB4 is basically like a boost controller. It does more than that, but that's basically what it does. It adds more boost, adds more timing, doesn't have the capability to control it because it's falsifying the numbers. So it really puts it in a scenario where it's just a little more risky. That's how I would put it. I also don't like that they can't really adjust fueling, like they can't adjust AFRs. I don't know if some of you guys remember on the Gen 1 days, like you still, as far as I know, you can't go past 400 wheel horsepower on a JB4 because there was like a software limit on the fuel system that it couldn't get past. And so people would have to add meth and stuff to make over 400 wheel. So lots of stuff like that. It just is not ideal. It works though. I haven't seen anybody that I would say blew up or damaged something just specifically because they were using JB4. It's just not optimized. If you want like a full upgrade for everything, then you'll get a DME tune. I forgot we had messages. I have messages to respond to on Instagram. Well, I think we answered all of these. Yeah, I think we answered all these. The only other thing somebody asked, would MHD switch to FlexRay? And I wouldn't expect that to happen. I don't expect Reflex to do that. I don't think it's really necessary. I understand that it's better, but again, I don't think it's going to like make more power, make tuning easier, anything. Maybe my car is just too slow, because I think the main thing I saw is when you're making a certain amount of power and RPMs are climbing fast enough and, you know, valves are closing fast enough, you can start missing data and miss like an injector firing or something like that. I don't know. I guess I'm just not in the spaces where we talk about that, or anybody around me is that fast. But I personally haven't experienced that issue, and I don't know anybody personally that had an issue where CAN bus communication wasn't quick enough. So yeah, I expect everything to just kind of be how it is. When the Reflex Pro comes out, that'll be what that is, and then we'll just continue making power. How close are we to getting full DME unlocks in the US? That's already a possibility as far as I've seen. I haven't tried it. But the one company that I've talked to is 1769 in California. I think I reposted them on my page at some point. But yeah, go to like Instagram. I think it's 17_69, 1769 performance, something like that. And they've got a company in Europe, but they've also got an extended company in California. and you can ask them if they're offering it to the public yet. They were doing like beta testing last year. Let's see, how much power would you expect on a Gen 2 B58 with cams and full DI upgrade, no port? I guess it depends on the turbo. I mean, on a stock turbo, it's not going to make any more power. Maybe like 500 to 550, somewhere around there, if you've got all the fueling in the world. I don't think cams do a lot on stock turbo personally. I didn't really experience any gains on my car. Oh, with a pure 900. I mean, if you're saying like just how much would a maxed out pure 900 make, it's probably like 750 to 800 wheel, somewhere around there. Maybe 850 if you had like all the stars aligned. I haven't really seen a lot of pure 900 numbers either, but they seem pretty accurate for the number and their rating. And they usually make, maybe 10 to 15% less on a dyno jet. Yeah, I need something. I mean, obviously, as you guys can tell from this 360p video quality, I need a lot of stuff for my streaming setup. So that's the goal at some point. Get a camera, get an extra screen, get like a proper setup. I really want like a TV in here or something, so when I'm working, I can actually live stream and be able to interact with the chat and stuff and see what's going on versus just having my laptop in the corner of the room. So I don't know. We're just daydreaming right now. Maybe one day. Let's see. Yeah, OBS Streamlabs. I've heard about that. I'm going to save this. Thanks for that. Oh, how do I? You know what? I'll just search for it. I'll save that on another tab. Appreciate it. Appreciate the recommendation. Let's see. I've only seen a single 900 wheel horsepower, pure 900. That makes sense to me. I mean, I think so. Like most things, the rating is based on airflow, right? So they figure out how much air it can flow. Presumably, it can flow about 90 pounds per minute. So that means that it should be rated for around 900 horsepower. But it's still a hybrid, right? So it's going to get choked up at a certain point. It's just kind of the nature of the game. So that's where I was saying, yeah, 750 to 800, maybe 850 if you push it. But I wouldn't expect it to make 900 wheel. I think there was like a rumor about that going around somewhere, like pure 800s make 800 wheel, pure 700s make 700 wheel. And that's not accurate, not in my experience. Let's see, thinking about getting an M440i, what's the max wheel horsepower X drive can handle? I think we were talking about that earlier. If you mean like the transfer case specifically, I haven't seen any good data on how much the transfer case can handle. I think it can handle a lot more than people think. But the problem is you don't know when it fails because a lot of times it's not going to like blow up and be leaking oil all over the ground and stuff like that. What I've seen is usually when the transfer case goes out, you floor it, and where the car would normally hook up, now you just do like a burnout and the rear wheels just spin because the clutches are messed up. It's not sending power to the front and managing traction anymore. So it performs like a rear wheel drive car. And I know that sounds really sketchy if you're used to your car hooking up and then you floor it one time and it's just like spinning like crazy. But yeah, I haven't really seen like definitive numbers on when the transfer cases start to slip or fail. And I think because most people, even if they have a bad transfer case, they don't know. So kind of hard to say. And now it seems like since Pure, whoever builds transfer cases, a lot of people just do it all at the same time. Let's see, car content creator to car content creator. What's some good advice? I plan on making a video about that as well. Because obviously I've made some pretty good growth, I guess, on this channel, and I really don't know what I'm doing. So this is something where for me, I'm just trying to keep up with it and manage it the best that I can. So I don't feel like I'm a good representation of somebody that like came out to become a content creator and worked hard and created it. I feel genuinely like I got very lucky, and sometimes that's just what it takes, you know. But probably the biggest thing for me is being consistent and trying to talk about stuff that I don't want to say is like controversial, but just relevant, you know, like this stream, for example. A lot of people were asking me about Rev 2 and Reflex, and I made my video, but I was still like, I want to talk about it. You know, I want to talk about it more. So that's why I decided to do this stream this weekend. So when stuff like that comes out, talk about it. And people are going to look for it. People are going to see my video and want other opinions. And if they see your video talking about it too, they'll watch yours as well. So for me, I think that's what it is, like being consistent and kind of like, you know what they say, chasing trends or, you know, things like just talking about stuff that's relevant so that people see your content, because that's the hardest thing. And I mean, because I started my other channel. Some of you guys saw I started the personal finance channel where I talk about managing business and credit scores and all of that stuff. Euclid 417 for anybody that wants to support, go give me a subscription. But it's way harder, man, when you're starting from scratch. It's so hard, especially when the market is pretty saturated and a lot of people are talking about the same stuff. It can be difficult. So yeah, I mean, I definitely get it. But just, yeah, stay consistent. Make sure it's something you enjoy, because you don't want to hate doing it. But think more about like what's relevant, what people want to talk about, especially if you have like a opinion that's controversial or that's kind of against the grain, and presenting it in a way where people will want to click on it and watch it. That's kind of what gets you started really quickly and keeps you growing. Yeah, I look like I have a system. That's the funny part. And I mean, because literally I was talking to my wife the other day and I was like, I'm actually 2 weeks ahead on videos right now. Like I've got multiple videos backed up. And for the longest, I didn't. For the longest, I was filming videos like 1 or 2 days in advance and just posting them and just trying to get something out there as regularly as possible. And now I'm actually at a point where I can plan out a video, kind of develop a script a little bit, figure out an idea of how I want to edit it and stuff, come up with thumbnails and like all that. But I did not start that way at all. If you guys remember staring at my engine bay, like that was me winging it every single time. And so thankfully people stuck through it at that point, and hopefully you guys see it getting better and better. I still don't have unlimited time. I've still got a full-time job and stuff, but I'm trying to take it more seriously and be as consistent as possible. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But good luck with you too. Just keep sticking with it. Like I said, give some competing ideas or thoughts on some like really common topics. That also helps. You know, everybody wants to talk about running E85. Everybody wants to talk about fuel pumps. Like just scroll through this chat and see what everybody's asking and talk about that stuff. And people will watch because everybody's looking for that information. So yeah, good luck, man. Stick with it. Let's see. What brake fluid do I run? So I run Type 200. So that's what we're actually going to be putting in the 340 today, probably right after I hop off of here. I started doing a little bit of work on the car, but I still need to flush the brakes before my track day. So we'll be doing that. I did an oil change. And this year I'm actually towing my car. So I am really excited because I finally don't have to swap out brakes and tires at the track. I can swap everything and then pull it on a trailer and just drive it there. I really can't wait. This is going to be my favorite track day so far. I can already feel it. But yeah, Type 200. There's a lot of popular ones, but Type 200 is cheap. It's available on FCP Euro, so they offer their lifetime warranty. I haven't used it on brake fluid, but in theory, you could send them old brake fluid and get your $20 back or whatever. And yeah, I use that in all of my cars. See, do you think I'd need to do sleeves and cams to hold 1,000 wheel horsepower, or could I get away with pistons, rods, rod bearings, and studs? Yeah, so I think probably on our cars, the weakest things are the pistons and then the head studs. The pistons tend to crack when you're pushing a lot of boost, and then the heads tend to lift when you don't have upgraded head studs. So you're going to want some ARP. I think they're the 625s. I feel bad saying this now, but I think it's the ARP 2000s that suck, and a lot of people have issues with it. So get the ARP 625s, and then yeah, piston rod setup. Yeah, ARP 2000s. So you hear people say, "Oh, I did ARP head studs," and then it's still lifted or something. 99% of the time, they're running 2000s, and for whatever reason, they don't hold on our cars. But yeah, I don't think sleeves are needed. Generally, sleeves shouldn't be a problem on our cars since our cars are, I mean, the crankcase is solid, so there's not really a lot of opportunity for it to be weakened or crack or anything. But yeah, it's really the cast pistons and then the head lifting. Let's see, would I get a hybrid B58? I would consider it. I almost got one with the X7, but the biggest issue is, they can't be tuned easily and need more than a bench unlock for most of them. So that was kind of the main reason I avoided it. If you're just daily driving a car, I don't really see a lot of issues with the hybrid stuff, to be honest. I'm not interested in it for like a performance application or like a fun car, but just for something that you're daily driving, going A to B, hybrid, electric, whatever is fine. But I'd probably try to avoid the first year. So I think they were introduced around like 2021 model year. So maybe get like a later 22 or 23 car if it's going to be a hybrid B58 just to avoid issues. I don't like the first year of any big technological change. So I like to get a car at least like a year out where they've worked out most of the bugs. And this is coming from somebody that's worked in automotive. So I know the kind of bugs that we are working through that first year. They're embarrassing. They're annoying. It's a lot of work, but everybody goes through that. Oh yeah, enjoy, man. Yeah, enjoy the break-in miles. Hopefully you get that done this week so we can start seeing what the car can do. Let's see, would you bore out the block without sleeving or the coating is necessary? So when you bore out the block, you would need to sleeve it if you did that. The coating isn't necessary. So after you bore it out, then you won't have the coating anymore. But some sleeves have their own coating or treatment or whatever on the cylinder walls. So it just kind of depends on what you go with. But what they say is because of the coating, you can't just like clean up the walls. You can't just go through there and, clean them up because it'll take the coating off. So you want something there. A lot of shops say they still do it, but that's my understanding is you're not supposed to. Let's see, am I running a Dodge high pressure fuel pump? Can we talk about the annoying clicking? Yeah, high pressure fuel pumps suck. DI sucks in general. Direct injection is loud. It's clicky. We were actually talking about how if you look up in the BMW system, look up the engine cover, and it's actually under sound insulation. It's not like a beauty cover, or some people say it's like for heat management or something like that. If you look it up in the BMW part system, it's under sound insulation. So it's literally like just to quiet down the injectors and the high pressure fuel pump and stuff like that. So yeah, it's loud. It's annoying. If you get a bigger pump, it's going to be louder. It's going to be more annoying, especially when you can't put like the sound deadening back on top of it. So it is what it is. Now, some of them sound really bad. If it sounds really bad, it might have a problem. Like some of them sound like knives sharpening, like it sounds really bad, that would be a problem. But if it's just clicking loudly, yeah, that's a part of the game. Let's see. My shop said they did when installing new pistons with no sleeves. They probably didn't bore out the block. They probably didn't bore out the block, because if you bore out the block, that like changes the size of the engine. You know what I mean? So they probably didn't do that. They might have just, redid the hashing on the cylinder walls. But yeah, you can't bore out the cylinders. Sorry, let me fix this. There we go. Yeah, I don't think you're screwed. Yeah, if they said they just cleaned it up, because when you run your engine, you want really good hash marks around the cylinder walls so that, nah, man, you should be good. Sorry, I didn't know you were talking about your engine. So when I read it, I thought you were asking, like, if I build my engine, should I bore it out? And it was like, no, absolutely not. Because think about it, the cylinder wall to piston clearance is like very specific. So if you bore it out, you make it bigger. And then you either fill in that gap with sleeves or you run like a bigger piston. So you can't just bore it out and then put the same pistons in there. But what they might do is, just when they're machining it, they might redo the hash marks, and they kind of do their little ballerina like swirls around inside of there. And that makes sure that you get a good seal. That's still something, again, I hear people say you shouldn't do, but it seems like most of the engine builders I know that did it don't have any issues. Yeah, feel free to PM me if you have like more specific questions. But from what you're saying, I don't think you're going to blow up tomorrow. Yeah, ask them what they actually did, because if they said bored out, I'd be surprised. Let's see, what's the most E85 you can run? I don't even need to read the rest. You can as much as you want. And I posted a video about that probably 2 years ago now. Whatever your setup is, you can run as much E85 as you want. All you need is a tune for that setup. So I showed on my video, I ran full E85 on a complete stock fuel system. It ran less boost so that I wouldn't overwhelm the fuel system, but otherwise it was fine. There's nothing that you need to swap to run E85 just because it won't work, if that makes sense. Nope, don't do it. Stop it. Stop saying that. If you want to be fast, yes. If you want to be fast, the optimal mix is around E40. But there's nothing stopping you from running E85 on a completely stock fuel system. No, you don't need a Dort Stage 2 for E85. What you need to determine is what your actual goals are. So how fast do you want to be? How much power do you want to make? And then put the parts on your car that set you up for that. Because on my car, a full E85 completely stock fuel system is faster than pump gas on a stock fuel system. So I ran full E85 on a stock fuel system for a while. It really just depends. And it's a part of it is because my fuel quality, like my pump gas quality, isn't the greatest. So I get like some timing corrections and stuff like that. But a little bit less boost on full E85 doesn't make a difference when I'm able to run twice as much timing. Right? So if I'm running, I don't know, spitballing here, but 14 PSI a boost, 14 to 15 PSI on a stock fuel system, and I go to full E85. Now I can only run like 12 to 13. But on pump gas, I was running like 7 degrees of timing. Now on E85, I'm running 15 or 16. The full E85 tune is faster. And a lot of people were doing that because, like, for example, during the hurricanes and stuff, they're like, oh, I can't find gas stations with gas. Nobody has 93. Can I run E85? In that scenario, you can do it as well. But you're not going to make as much power as you would on an ethanol mix. So that's just something to keep in mind. I did it for convenience because I didn't care. Again, I got tired of mixing and calculating mixes at the pump. So I just ran fully 85. Let's see, you want a video on data logs? We'll be doing more data logs for sure. I have more plans for the X7, so we'll be doing more testing on that car. The 340 as well, like I mentioned, we'll be doing some different fuel upgrades. I don't want to share too much, but we'll be trying some different new fuel setups and testing that out and making some videos on that. So yeah, during that, we'll be going over logs as well. And then I try to make a video every once in a while from logs that you guys send me and just show like how we diagnose issues and stuff. So yeah, I'll try to make another one soon. Let's see. I used cold start noise reduction on my Supra with a Deutsch 2.5 and S58 injectors. I was running the flex fuel tune and it threw a CL for running rich on cylinder 3 to 6. Excuse me. No, that doesn't sound common. I would double check if something else is going on. I mean, I'm not sure what your full setup is, but if you're just running an off-the-shelf map with a Deutsch Stage 2.5 and S58 injectors, make sure the settings are right. Make sure you have the correct settings, check boxes, and all that stuff in the tune so that your fueling is right. Run a log, see what your log shows. Is it actually running rich? Stuff like that. Make sure your injectors and everything are installed properly. If you just installed something or changed something, double check that that's okay as well. But that's not normal. It shouldn't throw any codes if everything is right. So Rico, if you ask your guy, ask him if he honed the cylinders or bored the cylinders. I'll even type it in the chat. That's what you want to ask him. Because I'm highly doubting that they bored the cylinders. Boring would actually make the cylinders bigger. Honing is just, like I said, cleaning it up, redoing the hash marks, making it more like new. Let's see. Have I ever had power management issues on the F30? So I guess I want to make sure I'm answering your question. What do you mean by power management? Do you mean like traction issues, or do you mean like the actual power management control module? I have traction issues, but it's not enough to like bother me. And I haven't had issues with the power management module or the power distribution module, whatever it's called. Is XHP stage 3 safe to run as a daily car? Yeah. Remember, the XHP stages are really just like combinations of settings. So it's not really any more aggressive or anything. Like it doesn't like create more wear. The only thing I don't recommend from XHP is drag mode, because that disables all the safeties and potentially lets the car do something it shouldn't. But You know, stage 3 to me, it just feels a lot more harsh. I don't like it for daily driving. I like the car to feel smooth. So that's why I went with a Sutphin tune. Oh yeah, that'll be a solid setup, man. If you got a built engine, hopefully built trans too. Head studs is the key. That's something that a lot of us miss, and it's something that we don't talk about a lot. Maybe I should make a video on that too. But it does seem to be like a pretty significant weak link when you start pushing big power and pushing a lot of boost. Let's see, right now I'm chasing down an issue that the car has battery drain. Every time I get in, it throws a battery code. First thing I say is check the OBD port. If you're leaving your OBD adapter in there, that's what's causing it. Otherwise, double check anything else that you recently installed on the car. If you did a dash cam, radar detector, flex fuel kit, you know, anything that plugs into a fuse or plugs into a cigarette lighter, anything like that, double check your wiring. But pretty much every time people tell me that, it's leaving the OBD adapter plugged into the OBD port. I'm getting a dock race kit for my 340. What size runners should I get? Is that a question? Is that, I didn't even know that was an option. That wasn't an option for me. Let's see, Gen 1 BMW F Series tubular manifold. Oh, runner size. Huh. I mean, I think most people would do fine with 1.25. I think that's what I have. Um, oh yeah, see, you can even see it in the notes. 1.25 is a runner size that is standard in the industry and has been known to produce well over 1,200 horsepower. So if you're not shooting for over 1,200, maybe I'm making an assumption here, but 1.25 should be plenty. I'm pretty sure my car is 1.25. I had no idea that was an option. That was not a down. That was not something I had to select when I picked my turbo. Interesting. Oh, well, I guess this is, yeah, because this is with the new precision kits and stuff. So this is way different than mine. Duh. Huh. Yeah, I'd say 1.25. Bottom mount only comes in 1.5. See, I haven't really looked at the bottom mount either. Yep. And that's funny because he uses it as a selling point, right? This is the only B58 turbo kit on the market that uses 1.5 pipe. Others use 1.25. This means less exhaust back pressure and more potential for guys making over 800 wheel. I don't think it's a bottleneck. Get a properly sized turbo and it'll work fine. Let's see. Do you think KLM makes the best turbo kits? I mean, I guess that's kind of a tricky question because I don't really know what would be best about it, like what's special about it. I think they're extremely popular and they charge more money because they're popular and a lot of the fast cars are using them, but I don't know what actually sets it apart. Yeah, pretty much all the record cars have a KLM kit. Here, I'll look at it now. Like if I look at it compared to other turbo kits, gosh, I wish I could screen share. But if I look at it compared to other turbo kits, I don't see the difference. Like look at the manifold. I'm looking at the dock race manifold on my other screen now, and look at the two side by side. What's that different about it? I'm not seeing it. So I don't know. I think they were probably one of the first people to offer this type of setup with the size turbos that they offer, because most people were offering either EFR or Garrett turbos. Then the first people I think I saw offering precision turbos were Big Boost. And then what was the other company? Wasn't there a company before KLM that made top mount kits that were really popular? I think Body had a kit before he had KLM, but I can't remember what it was. And then KLM came in and just like swept the market. But yeah, I mean, I think for the price, it's a hard sell for me. And I know I'm cheap, but I struggle with it. ETS and Boost Logic. I don't think it was them either. Now it's gonna annoy me. So I won't watch it right now, but I think he was running the kit when he did that interview on that racing channel. It was 4 years ago. And he talked about his whole setup. That was back when he had, gosh, this was a long time ago. This was when he had the Gassan engine. You guys remember that? Gosh, we've come a long way. 4 years ago, man. It's 2025. The Supra came out almost 6 years ago. People don't remember that, man. There are people that don't think about that. These cars are getting old. Like I told you, the 340 was built in 2016. So it's 9 years old. It's going to be 10 years old next year. This 340. And there's people that already have 10-year-old 340s. Yeah, exactly. Gen 2 is already retired. We've gone from Gen 1 to Gen 2. Now we're on Gen 3. Gen 3's been out for 3 years. We've had the Gen 3 B58 since 2022. These cars are getting old, man. I know people are complaining about the prices and stuff, but I mean, honestly, you'd think a car this old would be a lot cheaper, right? I get it. There is a lot of hype around it, though. That's a big part of the reason why the prices are holding pretty steady. Anyway, how many miles are on the 340? It has just over 70K. I think I just took a picture of it too. Let's see. Where's the picture? Oh, it might be almost 80,000. I can't find the picture, but I wrote in my notes when I did my oil change that it was at 77,000. So maybe that's how much it had. I thought it was closer to 70. But I got it with 60. So in 3 years, I've done what, 20 or 17,000 miles? It's not too bad. Yeah, exactly. The KLM kit price is insane. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's not a quality kit. Here, let me build it out how I would. So next gen 6870, no catch can, add a turbo blanket, no turbo guard, no T51R mod. How much is that? Yep, 8,700 bucks, almost 8,800 bucks. If I added the catch can, 9,200 bucks. If I did the turbo card and T51R, It's almost $10,000 for a turbo kit. People told me the dock race kit was too much and it was $5K because people want to spend, $3,000 on a hybrid. It's just a hard sell, man. And again, I know I'm cheap, but like right now, built engine, built trans, top mount turbo kit, $30,000. That's what's running right now. You just bought another 340 to build yours. That's why my cars sit at 600 wheel horsepower. Because I'm cheap and I struggle with that. And they're fast. I mean, when you build it properly, build engine, build trans and everything, you'll be fast. But I'm not there yet. Maybe when I get 100,000 subs and I'm getting 1 million views a month and all that, I can start dumping money into my car. But yeah, I got bills to pay, unfortunately. Hopefully that changes soon too. Let's see, do we think we'll see B58 or S58 hit sixes? I think that we have enough people committed to it that we will eventually. I don't know when. Like I thought we would break 750s at DX2K, and we didn't do that. A lot of the people that were pushing the hardest, specifically body and stuff, they pulled back a lot this year. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it does leave room for other people to keep going. But yeah, I think eventually we'll hit sixes. I don't think it'll be in the next year, maybe not even 5 years, to be honest. But people are committed to these platforms. They're swapping the engines into other cars. I don't know about you guys, but I never saw that kind of energy with the N54, N55, or any other platform. It's not like it's an LS or something and we're going to see it everywhere doing everything, but I think we have enough people committed to trying to make this as fast as possible. We could see sixes at some point. Oh, you can build my engine. Honestly, I feel like if I built my engine, I would try to build it myself on the channel because I've done an engine build before, but I know these cars are just very different too. So that's a lot of my concern right now. And if I built the 440, I would need a clutch and I would need a transmission, which is still 10 grand to do like the T56 swap and stuff. So yeah, it's very expensive for me to take this car any further. We're maxed at 1,500. Hard to hit sixes with 1,500. I don't think we're maxed. I mean, so we've got people pushing around 1,500, but there are a lot of different things that can be done to go faster. Like I was talking to Body about some of the things that he plans on doing this year. People are dropping a lot of weight. People are getting a lot more creative with their launch control and stuff like that. I don't know if tennis ball would have broke 750, not in the current state it was in. I think his A90 should have broke 750. I think they just struggled this year because they haven't really had any seat time. But that's really what I was expecting to see. I thought he was going to do at least 759. But yeah, I mean, we keep going to bigger and bigger turbos and the cars are taking it. Do we see like a limit at 1,500 where people can't make more power? I don't think so. I don't think so. My man Joe. Thanks, man. We're gonna put this in the rainy day fund. Appreciate it. So thanks to Joel, so far we've bought one piston ring. We'll get there, man. No, thank you though. I appreciate that. See, can I upgrade the trans in certain spots, or is it a smarter choice to just go ahead and get a pure trans? So you can definitely do that. And a lot of people sell different stages, stage 1, 2, and 3. I think the confusion with the pure trans is when they first offered a pure stage 1, people were breaking them because they didn't upgrade some critical components for drag racing, but they marketed it as being able to hold a certain amount of power. And then when it was breaking, they were like, oh, well, it's only for roll racing or something. And then stage 2 is for drag racing. And people just started dragging them for that. So now their stage 1 is like almost the same as a stage 2, at least from what I've seen. So yeah, but there are a lot of people that will just do clutch upgrades and that will allow it to hold more power. But there are still other components that Pure and other companies build and make it billet and stuff in order for it to hold on a launch. And that's more like when it would actually break. Like when you have wheel slip or a trans slip, then it's usually just the clutches, right? But when you have stuff break and like lose gears and things, then that's when you need billet component, forged internals, stuff like that. Let's see, do you have any bit of information about MHD Plus for Gen 1 to fully release? We already have MHD Plus. I'm not sure what you mean. We've got MHD Plus, we've got Reflex integration. The only thing that we don't have is flashing Reflex through the OBD port. Oh yeah, I see. You're saying full Reflex integration. So I'm guessing that's what you mean. I'm not sure when that's coming for us. But again, I don't think it's going to be like a huge game changer. Like for somebody like me that already has it all set up, I'm not going to benefit from that. I'm not flashing tunes every week. I'm not running through revisions and stuff. So it doesn't really make a big difference to me. Let's see, thoughts on billet block for S58. To a degree, I think it's just kind of a flex, saying that we can do it and knowing that there's people with money out there that'll buy it. But again, like I don't see people cracking blocks. I don't see people blowing these built engines. How long has Body been on his engine? How long have some of these world record cards been driving? I know they do checkups and stuff, but who's actually had an engine let go that was fully built or had a cylinder wall crack? And maybe I'm just not seeing it. Again, let me know. But I haven't seen those posts. I haven't seen anybody say they have that issue. So personally speaking, I don't think that's hugely necessary, but I'm sure at a certain point it will be. Body went through motors when he started because he was getting Gassan motors. And that's why I was saying this was so long ago. People forgot about that. Gassan isn't even in the US anymore. And that's what we were dealing with back then. You remember when they sponsored all those people? That was when they sponsored Jamie, No Clutch Garage. He got a Gassan motor. Body got a Gassan motor. And then he blew that. He put another stock one in. And then I think he blew that. And then he got it built by, oh gosh, what's his name? With the black Supra. Dang, I forgot his name. He did really well this year too, actually, at TX2K. Maximum PSI just blew another motor. Dang. That's the other thing, because they got that event going this weekend, and I don't know how everybody's doing, but I think some people thought the Gen 1 record was going to be broken by Bimmerhub, but I don't think they did it. They got to do 860 or better, because that M140 over in the UK did like an 865. Let's see, I'm really curious what this turbo kit was that Body used to have. Let me see. I'm trying to read the captions on this. Yeah, Gassan built G1000. Gosh, that's a throwback. Oh yeah, it was an ETS kit, so that's what it was. I think ETS was the one that was really popular before Extreme Turbo System. So everybody had that back in whatever that was, like 2020, 2021, and then eventually everybody started switching over to KLM. All right, I probably got another 10 minutes because we've been on here for 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours. Appreciate everybody jumping in again. Let's see, what do we got? So who do you think will have the Gen 1 record between Hawk Addison and a couple other Gen 1 guys? I mean, Bimmerhub is killing it right now, so I don't know. I don't see people that like hide their setups and stuff. I don't see what they're doing, so I don't know. That's just not something I'm a fan of. People that like gatekeep and keep their setup a secret and then only post numbers after it's old and all this stuff, but they say they're the fastest. I don't know. I mean, I guess we just got to trust you in the meantime. Gen 1 will hit sevens. We'll see. Like I said, these guys are struggling to hit 860s this weekend, but the season just started. I just know they did like a complete overhaul on their setup. So I thought maybe naively that they were just going to come out swinging, and they basically bumped up their record by like 0.2 or something. Now they're just running like low 870s. I think the F chassis launch control system is too weak. I mean, people aren't really leaning on launch control, though. It's really like, I think it's a lot of dynamics with the car, using the right suspension setup, having a good alignment, and then just practicing, really being able to build up boost. The torque converter is changing things a lot. So when people upgrade the torque converter, they can leave harder, but I don't know. We'll see. It is kind of confusing to me that it struggled so much. We struggled so much for Gen 1s to get that fast. So that's why I think a lot of it is tuning, a lot of it is setup, not so much like the capability of the cars. Like they should be able to be just as fast. Once you've upgraded the turbo and built the engine and transmission. Yeah, Gen 2 X drive is better. Gen 2 transmission is better. The HP50 is older technology than the HP51. But the gap that we're trying to make up between Gen 1 and Gen 2 is kind of unreasonable. And not unreasonable like somebody's doing something wrong. I just don't think it truly represents the capability of the cars. Like Gen 1 isn't that much slower than a Gen 2, even though we've got 7-second Gen 2s out there. Yeah, we do have a lot of Gen 1 grudge racers. And I mean, however you feel about it, One Stock F30 started a lot of it, right? Or at least made it a lot more popular. And especially when I started making videos, I started having more people reach out to me, sharing times and telling me not to tell anyone, like I was going to put them on Front Street. And I'm like, man, I'm not even in that scene. I don't really do like any of that. So, it doesn't bother me. But I just hate it when somebody posts a time and then the comments are filled with people like, oh, that's it, or oh, haha, I was doing that a year ago, but they won't post what they're doing. It's like if you're a grudge racer and it's that important to you, then just be quiet. Let people that are actually posting times and setups and stuff, like let them share that information instead of trying to downplay it. Personal opinion. Exactly. It's like, again, I have no skin in the game, but it's like one of my pet peeves when people are like, oh, now that I changed my setup, I'll post the times I was making, or oh, this is the times that I make, but this isn't my fastest. Then why are you sharing? Like, what's the point? Why are we here right now? Michael, you were one of them. Yes, exactly. They're like, oh, this was my fastest time. You can actually see that if you go through the groups because you can see people's older times or older posts. And you can see like they post, oh, okay, this was my old setup. This is the fastest time I ran. But then 3 months before that, they posted some times to flex. And like you said, it's like 0.2 or 0.05 slower. Again, I don't get it. Maybe that's why I'm slow, because I don't understand it. Or maybe I don't understand it because I'm slow, so I have nothing to brag about. I don't know. One or the other. Let's see. Try to catch up on some old questions too. What about oil and long term? Your 0W30 worked good. Yeah, I still use 0W30. I'm actually planning on using it in the X7 as well when I change the oil, but I've been using it in the 3 Series. I'm going to be making another video about the PCV as well because I changed my PCV setup a little bit. Got a couple new parts and stuff, so we'll be making videos about that. But no issues with the oil itself. The car's been running strong. I've got 4 or 5 track days on the 340 now with no issue, and we'll be doing another 4 this year. So all right, let's see. I'll try to get one more. Oop, don't freeze on me. Yes, it did indeed freeze on me. Are we back? It did indeed freeze. I don't know where that came from. I tried to click on the chat or scroll, and then all of a sudden it froze. I don't have anything open on the computer either. That sucks. All right, we back. And honestly, not for long. Let's see, is it safe to buy a new X5 with the Gen 3 B58 now? I haven't heard anything about the new Gen 3 since that video that I made, and I'm going to make an update again to kind of clarify things because people are still messaging me like, I'm scared of BMWs. Oh, did I buy this and is it going to blow up? There are definitely some growing pains, and that's the same thing I said before. You know, I like to wait a year or two after something new comes out before I buy it, and it seems like it's more or less been fixed. You know, I haven't really been hearing about that. I haven't had technicians and stuff messaging me with cars with their cylinder heads taken off and stuff. So I would say Gen 3 B58s are okay. Just remember, like, they can't be tuned. If you want to modify it and stuff, you're kind of stuck with what you got. But otherwise, they seem okay. Let's see. I plan on doing a single turbo top mount kit from SpeedTech on my F82 M4 and was wondering if I should take the port or I'm assuming direct injection route. It's probably worth just going port depending on your power goals. If you're going to be running E85 and making jam, I think you guys max out your DI system pretty early. And I don't know a lot about the injector upgrades that you have available because I think you can run is it M5 injectors or something like that? I don't know if it gives you a lot more headroom. So I run port injection on my cars currently, and it's been pretty good. Probably first thing to do is find a tuner, work with them, and let them know what your goals are, and then figure out what you need for your setup or what they recommend, because that'll make sure you have a good time. Next live stream will hopefully be next month. So like I said, I'm going to try to do this once a month. I'll post about it in advance. And it's usually the same time, Sunday around 1 or 1:30, just because this is what works with my schedule. And yeah, we'll try to see how often we can do this. Okay, I'm tapping out. It's been 2.5 hours. Appreciate everybody joining. You know, like I said, feel free to message me on Instagram or Facebook. If you need immediate help, you want kind of a lot of support, join the Patreon. We've got our Discord and everything there, so you can talk to me, and I'm very accessible on that side of things. But we will jump back on, hopefully, like I said, in another month or so. I'll try to do another one in April. All right. Thanks again. See you on the next one.